There we go. I think we're now recording. Yes, we
Okay,
are.
we are now recording, so anything you do say and will say will be held against you in a court of law. That goes to you, Gregor. You're
Right.
fine, Chris. You're fine.
What are we doing anyway? We started recording. You've not told us what we're doing.
Hi, this is Sean Ferrick from Trek Culture. You are listening to Spock the Week podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Spock the Week. For some strange and unfathomable reason, he hasn't learnt his lesson. Once again, we are joined by Christopher. Welcome back, Chris. How are you doing this fine 2021? We've made it to the other side of 2020.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back.
You guys haven't scared me off yet.
We'll see what we can do tonight then.
Yeah, let's try and put you off and see what happens. So once again we are here, and we are going to talk about, well, basically what better way to talk about 2020 than to talk about the year of hell from Voyager. How would the Voyager crew deal with what humanity has had to deal with over the last 12 months? What would Janeway do? I think it's a great way to describe it. We're into a new year. It's the first recording we've made after the new year. It won't be the first episode you good listeners will be listening to in the new year, but it's our first ever recording of 2021. Let's have at it.
Since we're discussing 2020 and year of hell and all that, can I do the music? I think I found some appropriate music suitable for 2020. Do you want to?
Well, the first thing is, are we going to get a copyright blast for this?
No. It's just don't.
If he sings it, we're good.
Oh yeah, you've got to sing it. Yeah. It's got to be an original.
It'll be an original. Okay.
If it's a cover, you're fine.
Okay. Well, just a minute, because I'm. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Play your throat.
Right, so I'm okay to play some music. Okay, I'm going to play this.
It should be good. He's broken.
Warming up his voice. Give him a moment.
Oh, bless him. He's gone for Mozart.
Listen to that. Is this not appropriate music to say goodbye to 20? Does this not sum up 2020?
Mozart's always a good suggestion.
See, that's perfect end of 2020 music.
You're just tuning in.
But see, this is the thing with you coming from Yorkshire. You just have no culture. It's like, hey lad. It was a brass band that was. I walked my brass band in Yorkshire tea.
You done? Shall we talk about Star Trek instead of I am the closest thing Great Britain has to a redneck, so let's leave the insults on the back door.
Leave your insults in your quarters, Ensign.
We will not have this on our bridge. So yeah, we started this podcast in 2020 during the lockdown. In a way, there has been some beneficial aspects to what we've all been through, and a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have used the time to benefit themselves, catch up on certain Star Trek episodes they've missed, or binge watch other programs that are available. We started a podcast. We're doing great, because as at the time of recording, we have a regular download of at least 4 every week. So there are 4 people, and all 4 of them are from the United States of America. So God bless you all.
Really?
Yes. At the last count, we have 41 downloads from the US over the last section of downloads. The biggest market is Dallas, Texas. So big up to Dallas, Texas. Well done for those poor people that feel the need to download us every week. Really do apologise for Gregor and myself and everything that we do, because we just make this up as we go along. Anyway, I digress.
Well, no, it's great. I mean, Dallas is where the North Stars went. So when they left Minnesota, so another hockey connection. So I mean, hey, go Dallas. I mean, it's the only time I'm going to say it because I'm a total Packers fan. So I'm not going to be rooting for the Cowboys anytime soon. But
So are the Packers going to qualify for the playoffs tonight? So I've just dated it because we're talking about the playoffs. It's the end of the end of the regular season. It's all gone tits up already.
It's all right. I'm a neutral in this one anyway, because I'm a Dolphins fan. So go Dolphins.
I haven't looked at the numbers yet. I should. I just get the updates. I'm one of those guys who might. Yeah, my team's playing. All right, cool. And then that's about it.
Yeah,
pretty much. Do you know what also's happening tonight? Not that we're trying to date it. The podcast for tonight, but also tonight we've got the World Darts fight between Price and Scotland's own Gary Anderson.
Go on, Gary.
Wow, darts.
Yes.
Oi. If you've ever watched the darts on Sky, you will get that one.
Unfortunately, I don't. I'm limited by not having Sky. I got to watch it when I was in London 3 years ago, but that's about it.
And Chelsea have just been humped by Man City 3-1. Again, I'm not trying to date the podcast, but I've just been listening to Radio 5 Live. Man City have just humped Chelsea at Stamford Bridge 3-1.
Nice. And the Star Trek connection?
Marina Sirtis watches football, so...
Good save, Chris. I like it. For extra added points, what team does she support?
Well, I get this wrong. I'm going to get hell for this. Spurs.
Yes! Get that man a biscuit.
Yeah. So Marina would have been happy.
Talk to me. She'll still talk to me. Not that she ever did. I think I've said 2 words to her my entire life.
Yes, Marina, if you're watching or listening or whatever, not that you would ever even be anywhere near this podcast, but he got it right, so please speak to him.
Marina, if you're listening, Marina, Harry Kane is my cousin. She's now going to listen every week.
And she's going to look that up, and she's going to find out that you are actually not.
How do you know I'm not Harry Kane's cousin?
I don't know. I'm just trying to steer this back to where it should be.
Let's steer back. This got off the rails last time, so which is kind of fun. But
yeah.
There are rails? Where?
Is there anything in those mince pies?
Boundaries, what are those? Everything's on the table now.
So, comparing 2020, right, to Year of Hell. I mean, obviously it's not a direct comparison because they were basically hounded and attacked. They didn't know when the next thing was going to come, when the next attack was going to come, how bad the shit, whether they were going to survive. In a way, we were a bit like that here in the UK with 1 minute we're out of lockdown, next minute we're into lockdown, next minute there's these restrictions, then restrictions. I mean, it's a hard thing to describe, to be honest with you, because there's nothing really to compare it to. I mean, what would Jane? Well, let's start with some obscure characters then. What would Neelix do if he was in that situation? What would he do? That'd be an interesting.
This is where I think comparing to the Year of Hell to 2020 falls apart a little bit. They don't know. Jamie doesn't know what's going to happen in the Year of Hell. But you contrast this, Jamie's experience of the Year of Hell with, what's the character Kurtwood Smith plays? Not Anthrax, something else. What's his name again?
It's something similar to that, isn't it? It's very similar.
Anorax, played by Kurtwood Smith, yeah.
So the Anorax, the Kurtwood Smith character, is constantly trying to adjust the timeline and make amends for mistakes past and get things on the right path. Now, I would contrast that with where JJ says with what our experience was in the UK, where learning mistakes of the past bore absolutely no part in any decision making of Boris Johnson's government. So they went into the first lockdown too late and it was quite bad. Came out of it too soon and it was quite bad. Had to go back into another second lockdown in October that lasted till December, but again went into it too late because the advice it was given was do it in September. And now we're about to, at the time of this recording, and I'm not saying this to screw up the timeline of when our date when it's recorded, I suspect that tomorrow we are going to get some really bad news here in the UK with regards to what's happening next. All the signs are that we are going to get some bad news. And it's just like, we've got the real life politicians here not learning from the mistakes that they made earlier in the year, constantly procrastinating. In contrast, I think that's very different from Anthrax's experience of the Year of Hell. Now, where I think we're like Jamie is, we don't know what's going to happen. I think that's where our parallel with the Year of Hell comes in. At our level, we don't know what's happening because the powers that be are fanning around, basically.
And well, if you want to go off of that analogy too, we also have a lot of people trying to compromise, and Janeway wasn't one to compromise. She was all about, we had one leader who had a very specific goal. Well, yeah, she had to adapt to multiple changes, but she didn't know what was going on. Whereas with the US and the UK, it sounds like there's a lot of similarities there with the fact that we knew what we had to do. It's just the fact that people are refusing to do it. And there's a lot of compromise in when we should do it. And that's why these lockdowns happen too late. And we come out of them too soon because you have other people screaming, going, no, this is wrong. It's like, no, you guys have a plan. You guys just need to be able to put it into place. And people who don't believe, who think the virus is a quote unquote hoax, which considering the fact that I've got a number of family members who have had the virus, I can guarantee you it's not. Just realizing that, no, you do need these stricter quarantines. You do need these stricter lockdowns, and not trying to because you're bored, wanting to leave. Whereas on Voyager, they all knew they had a goal to survive. They had a goal of what needed to get done. And it was only when Voyager could not sustain its crew that they actually, sent them off. So, I mean, it's hard to compare what Janeway would do compared to what's going on now because of the fact that, 147 people as opposed to, between our two countries, roughly 400 to 450 million people, all with varying opinions, all with different opinions, all with different objectives, and all with different needs. And they're all trying to do what I guess they feel is best, or whatever. I kind of lost where I was going with that, but I think you guys understand the point I'm going with.
Yeah. I mean, it's, for me, I'm just going to call him An because I don't want to say Anthrax.
Anorax.
Anorax. It's like...
Think train spotter.
Yes.
Groups of train spotter, an anorak of train spotters.
Yes, that's our little our name for a rail fan. For those of you listening in the States, that's what they usually refer to as anoraks. And just as a little sidebar on that one, they're a little bit more ridiculed here than they are in. It's not as a popular sport here. When I say not a popular sport, there are a lot of people that do it, but it's like that sort of, oh, look at him, sort of thing, But anyway, going back to what we were speaking. So Anorax was, I think, to be honest with you, it kind of, in a way, reminds me of the way things have been going on in this. Like, it keeps trying to mend the mistake of the previous decision. So in his case, the previous decision was to go back to this particular point in time and remove this race from the history, or remove this plant from the history, or something like that. Every time he makes that decision and he goes back to his present time and it's not worked, he has to go back and try and rectify that decision. By going back and rectifying that decision, he can't completely reset it because he's already done the damage with the first decision. And that, I think, is something, is a comparison that we can use, because on both sides of the pond, decisions have been made by politicians and people in positions of power that have set areas or nations or counties or whatever onto a certain course, and then they've realized, oh, that's not working, but the damage has already been done from that decision. And that, I think that's a very good comparison to that, because it just shows that we're trying to sort of, especially here in the UK, trying to backpedal and sort of rectify, or it's kind of like, oh, I've got a small cut in my leg, I'm going to make that cut just a little bit bigger, because if I do that, more blood will come out and it'll heal up quicker. And then it turns out, oh no, hang on a minute, that hasn't worked. I'm going to have to go and put a band-aid on that. Oh God, that's not working, and so on and so on and so forth. For that, I think that's to be honest with you, when I started this conversation, I didn't actually think that the Anoraks would be the actual direct comparison. I mean, I was kind of trying to sort of put some comparisons with Voyager and the Voyager crew and the personalities on that crew, but it turns out that it's actually the quote-unquote bad guy that actually has the... But then, having said that, the bad guy element, is he really the bad guy? Because he's just a guy trying to do something. Yeah,
he's
exactly.
trying to save his wife. That's his whole point, is that hair, that lock of hair he has in the container. I watched the episode this morning to refresh myself, so that's why it's like, oh wow, he knows as well. It's like, I watched it 2 hours ago. He's one of those kind of noble bad guys where it's like what he's doing is morally gray, morally wrong, but he's doing it for what he feels is the right reason. There's a colony that his wife was on who died, and he's trying to reverse time so that he can change the past to make sure that she lives. So it'd be like somebody trying to figure out which holiday that he knows that vectors happen throughout the year of, okay, if we did the lockdown here, could I have saved my friend who died of COVID? If we want to bring the analogy back down to a bigger world, it's like, okay, if we'd done the lockdown, let's say for us in the US over 4th of July, if we had a stronger lockdown and this event didn't happen, let's say in Tennessee, I'm not referring to a specific one, but I'm just going, okay, if there was one party here that caused one person to fly to, Ohio, and who then infected somebody who went to Pennsylvania, and he's from Philadelphia, and that's where his wife got infected. Okay, maybe if he went back to that party, eliminated that, did the lockdown there, made that party never happen, maybe his wife would still be alive. And realizing that by going back to that party, something else didn't happen further along the timeline. And he either made things worse or caused something, another event to happen that had a cascading effect that made it worse. His wife ended up dying in a car accident instead of COVID, etc. So that whole concept of chaos theory, where the paradox, where if you change one thing, it changes something else, but it still causes different branches. And that's actually something that they were playing with in the episode with Chakotay, trying to figure out, okay, how can we get Voyager out of this mess? And realizing that, we could eliminate the life of this asteroid. And not realizing that the asteroid had other implications throughout the sector. And so watching these politicians try and figure out, okay, where's the best place to put this so we can still mitigate, how bad it's going to get, but also make everybody happy so it doesn't look as bad. It's still them trying to go, okay, this point, no, this point, no, this point, okay, maybe this one.
See, what I would say to that, probably agreeing with you in terms of not taking account of the full consequences of a particular action, is that the free market economists that run America and that run the UK, their motivation has been, they've said it's to protect life. Me being the cynical person, I think their motivation has been to protect the economy. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I think there's a certain amount of irony in that on both sides of the Atlantic, by trying to protect the economy and getting us, minimising the lockdowns and getting us out the lockdowns, I think they've actually done more long-term damage to the economy because they were so short-sighted. And by focusing on the one aspect, they didn't see the full picture of what was out there, of what could happen. You can't jump out an aeroplane and then expect gravity to behave in a different way. We're talking about science here. You don't jump out the aeroplane and then negotiate with gravity over the size of the parachute that you have.
You're right. And the basis for comparison we have for that are other countries like South Korea, Japan,
New Zealand.
New Zealand is the best example. New Zealand is the best case scenario where they lock everything down, put everybody on a pension, so to speak, and don't go anywhere. Here's how your bills are going to get paid. And they had 2 cases and they shut down the city and retested everybody. But they did that earlier on. And now, people could spend time with their families as opposed to people like me, where my family lives, a different state away, as we joked about last time. And I had to stay within my own bubble, within my own city, as opposed to spending time with my parents and my brothers. So, their motivation was to try and quote unquote keep the economy going, but no, you're right. They didn't fully look at, their idea was to keep the stock market up basically and keep, revenues flowing, as opposed to just literally putting everything to a complete stop, letting this thing burn out. And it's not doing that because people don't follow the procedure and these things don't happen long enough.
Yeah. And you only get one chance. Everybody, because we were locked down pretty well in the UK, it was going well, and then they brought us out of it. And you only get one bite of the cherry. If you're going to lock it down hard, you're only going to get one go of that with society. So you better make sure it works the first time.
And anybody who's looked at any kind of, because I did a lot of research back, because there's somebody who I follow on Twitter. I'm not going to drop their name here, but they were in Wuhan during the initial lockdown. So what information could get out? I kind of already knew the virus existed prior to January, and so, when it first started, showing up and we started getting notifications, I started going back to all the data from the H1N1, which, aka the swine flu that happened in the U.S. in 2008, 2009, and how that was contained by those procedures, comparing that to the 1918, using the term Spanish flu because that's not the right term, but it's what it's normally caused as. Just watching those factors and their lockdown procedures, and then also looking at how it's currently being handled and watching the own vectors as you kind of see it kind of branch out in the in the Minneapolis area, plus also other major metropolitan areas. I mean, Italy, we thought that would be the worst of it when that happened too. I mean, they shut down the country for a month, and we thought that 40,000 people dead would be the worst of it. The U.S. has far exceeded that. But anybody who's looked at those maps would know, okay, this is what you have to do. And unfortunately, people were too busy trying to keep the economy going, and we're afraid of letting that thrive, or too afraid of shutting everything down so that the numbers could.
Here they were terrified of Richard Branson. Oh, please let my planes fly. You've got to keep letting my planes fly. Now, there is an entire episode of Spock the Week of me ranting about Richard Branson, and now's not the time to do it, but I could rant about Richard Branson for weeks.
And
Only that he is.
Moving
this
to
is what we only have. No, not well. It's just and just watching. We can look at this now because it's we've had time to look at this on the outside, but it's like just trying to watch. Like I said, you have the difference between Voyager and the Voyager crew and Anarax and kind of our own situation is watching kind of people trying to mitigate this disaster like Anarax was trying to figure out, okay, we're on the timeline. Can we make least amount of people? And Anarax could be an analogy for any all types of people within both governments, or
Exactly.
kind of just trying to feed these people advice, going, okay, here, no, here, no, here. If we do this for 3 months, we'll be fine. Nope, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this again, but still making it worse. Because same with Anarax, he would eliminate one planet and make his empire worse. Do another planet and 98%, but he didn't get his desired result.
I mean, one of the other things as well is another comparison is you've got obviously Anarax doing what he's doing, Janeway and Voyager sort of caught up in the middle of this, trying to figure out what's going on. But they both have their own agendas, and eventually, like I say, we find out that Voyager has something to do with the with the initial.
The temporal shielding that they were trying to use to prevent the torpedoes from getting attacked. They found the chronoton signature, I think is the right term, for their temporal torpedoes, and were using that to create shielding, which was causing an unstable element within Anarax's calculations.
That was it.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, I mean, appreciate that, actually, to be honest, because I'm doing a lot of this from memory. You've got the benefit of watching it quite fresh. But the thing for me is, like I say, you've got these two agendas. Janeway is trying to get the crew to the other end of Krennin space, and that is, even though they just want to get out of the way, it conflicts with what. So you've got different people, different countries, different areas. I mean, like here in the UK, the whole of Scotland's in a level 4 lockdown. 3/4 of England is in a level 4 lockdown, with certain areas not. Now that's all well and good. Until tomorrow. But what's happening then is you've got all the people individually that have got their own agendas, all trying to sort of do their own thing and interpret the rules in their own way. And just like Janeway and Anarax, they conflict and cause each other various different levels of. Just look at the state of Voyager. To be fair, the just a little gripe for me was that I would have liked to have seen Voyager to be in a bit of a dire state for at least a couple more episodes, because you go through Year of Hell, the thing's practically destroyed, and then the cheap shot at the end of the Year of Hell where she basically destroys Voyager and the Krennin ship and resets the timeline, and then all of a sudden, it's like nothing ever happened. I thought, missed opportunity. I mean, that ship was repaired way too quickly, way too often, And I know it was a TV show. I know we've had this before in the last episode.
No, I understand that.
but
I think they corrected
yeah.
that in Enterprise when in the Expanse. So that little storytelling was fixed later on.
Oh, actually, I've just been watching Enterprise, and it's the one where they get struck by the mine in the Romulan minefield.
Yeah. It's season 1.
Yeah, season 1, and then they've got a bit of damage, but then they get out of it because they find a space station that performs a miracle repair.
Yeah, dead stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
That the one with the nefarious purposes, where it's there's more to the space station than meets the eye. Is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah. The war station, as you find out in the novels. Yeah. Or the wear station. Anyway.
See, just to slightly backtrack just a little bit, I mentioned that Voyager basically was destroyed in the final moments of the Year of Hell. A lot of people I noticed on Twitter when it was coming up to New Year's Eve were basically turning around and saying, if you start the Year of Hell at this exact time, Voyager blows up
I saw
dead
that too,
on midnight.
I think it was like 10:32. Which, my brother and I were on the phone during, I spent New Year's Eve at home, literally in this exact same spot on the phone with my brother. And we went, all right, Ed, nothing happened. All right, cool. Well, it's just like the year 2000. Okay, nothing happened. Okay. So nothing changed. We're still here. But I think if in other episodes when you're making your point about Voyager getting fixed too fast, in other episodes when you see Voyager get, go through a fight with whomever, the Herosian, whatever, they would have an episode or two where this was like they're still fixing stuff. That would have shown some continuity between episodes where they could have this big epic, 2-part episode. They barely make it through. Next episode, everything's 100% efficiency. And it's kind of like,
I think the other double episode was the one with the Herosians.
Yes, I was just going to mention that one. Yeah,
the hunt, was it the Hunters? Hunted?
Yeah, the Hunters. Yeah.
That was the one where that was the one where they turned the entire ship into they didn't turn the entire ship, but they turned the holodecks into hunting grounds with World War II Klingons and something else. I think I can't remember.
That was the sentient holograms. Yeah.
The ship practically was blown to bits from the inside out, and yet, like you say, it was like, it's like, oh
Next
yes,
episode.
we've got limited resources. We have replica rations. Oh yes, look at this brand new ship.
Well, let's not talk about the torpedo count. I've seen those videos where somebody who actually went through and did a video about Voyager, going, all right, let's count the torpedoes, and because they say in the first episode how many torpedoes they have, and they're like, and they're done. They're halfway through. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it, but I was, I'm gonna get some hate for this. Voyager wasn't my strong series.
It's a bit of a weird one because I'm one of those Trekkies where I have my favourite, which is Voyager, but I am not a bookended knowledgeable. There are things that I don't know. There are things that I don't remember. I'm just sort of like, I would say maybe the casual viewer. Gregor, on the other hand, he's quite knowledgeable when it comes to Deep Space Nine, for example. He's quite knowledgeable when it comes to the writers, to the directors, to the showrunners and stuff like that. He can remember the names and stuff like that, whereas, I struggle. I know, for example, that Jonathan Frakes directs quite a few episodes throughout Star Trek. In fact, recently the penultimate episode of Discovery, which yet again he knocks it out of the park. But that's in my memory fresh because it's only, let's say, it was only last week that I watched that. Yeah, I can't remember. I could never quote any of the episodes that he directed in the past. The only one I can do.
He directed.
That's fine, man.
He directed the greatest ever episode of The Next Generation.
Which one?
Sub Rosa.
He did.
Greatest episode ever. If you can't have an episode of a TV show where the Doctor bones or Granny's boyfriend's ghost, what can you do?
That one. Okay. No, I was thinking of Conundrum.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now arrived at the threshold section of the show.
Oh, bullshit, Moya. I'm sorry. Like I've said before, Gates reminds me of my mom. So anybody talking like that, I'm like, dude, that's my mom. My mom's a ginger and very smart, very outspoken woman. So it's just like, dude, that's my mom. And it's just like, this is the best episode ever. They get it on. And it's like, no, it's funny watching, even going on Twitter, people are like, gee, Dobby. I'm like, please don't talk sexually about Gates.
I think, to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I'm more in the Pulowski camp when it comes to the Doctor on TNG. I actually did like her character better than I did like, and I didn't dislike Gates McFadden in any way, shape, or form, but I preferred Pulowski to Crusher.
I think season 2 Pulaski was a much better character and had much more story potential than season 1 Beverly did. Because in season 1 Beverly just ran about saying, my son, my son, my son, and didn't have much to do. She got better. She got better writing as the show went on, culminating in Sub Rosa, where she bones her grandmother's dead boyfriend Ghost, which is a fantastically, the acting in that scene's amazing.
By the way, Chris, I can go down, I can break lockdown rules, and I can go and punch him for you if you wish.
No, that's fine. One day lockdown will be over on both sides. And you will see some random bearded American and going, oh crap, I deserve that.
Dude,
and
run!
Okay, now my turn.
But yeah, I'm largely in agreement with you. I'm largely in agreement with you.
Why'd you punch the old guy? Why'd you punch the old guy? He knows. Let's go have a drink. Where's the nearest pub?
I'm largely in agreement with you comparing season 1 Crusher to Pulaski. Because there is no comparison there. Pulaski was much better.
Is that you agreeing with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Write down.
Hang on a minute.
Man. It's full of all sorts of surprises.
It's not noticed I paused the recording before I said that, but
I agree, man. That you were, and I think it shows either the evolution of the writing or just different writers treating Pulaski differently and then realizing, oh, this is how we can write the Doctor character when Gates came back for season.
I mean, I don't know if there was a power dynamic in terms of, because Diana Muldaur was a much more prominent TV actor and actually had been in a few Hollywood films by the time she got to TNG.
Who, Gates or?
No, Diana Muldaur.
Oh, yeah, Diana, yeah.
So I don't know if she had more clout with the writers, but Gates in her own right had been quite successful at the time of casting. I mean, she'd done all the choreography on Labyrinth and things like that, so she wouldn't have been a wilting wallflower, and I think she was quite vocal with some of the stuff she was asked to do and say, no, I want a bit more. I certainly know for a fact she was quite vocal with the producers about her relationship with Wesley, where her conversations with Wesley revolved around him fancying Ashley Judd, and if it was an engineering question, he would go to Geordie. And yet, as she pointed out, well, I was head of Starfleet Medical. Can I not have technical, challenging conversations with my son, or can we only talk about characters like Ashley Judd? So yeah, I think she was quite right.
Yeah, no, it was great to branching against. Don't want to get too far off this because I'm sure Gregor, you and I could talk about this forever. Just watching Gates or Beverly's evolution as a character, with different actors, different producers. Jerry Taylor, I always want to bring that up. Jerry Taylor coming in the fourth season, giving the female characters a lot different storylines besides. As though it's a joke, repeating what the computer says. I said there's a lot of Troy's character too, her changing uniform, giving them command shifts on the bridge, letting them make command decisions. It was great to see that evolution, even growing up now where I didn't pick it up when I was 12 when I was watching the series, but I'll pick it up when I'm 38. And just seeing how they treat the female characters as opposed to the male characters and what decisions they have them do story-wise throughout the series, and watching that change has always been fantastic to see. You can start to see some of the complaints that they had earlier on. Troy being told, yeah, you just sit there, look pretty, and just go, I feel nothing. And, that's her character arc. And it's just like, no, she's got to do more.
I agree. And I think when I go back and do rewatches of TNG and I watch the early seasons, mainly Deanna, which is the one that stands out for me, it's so almost cringeworthy on some episodes. The sort of the lines and the sort of the way she, is portrayed on that. I'm like, okay, that's. But knowing full well that it gets better further down the line, and whatnot. So when they end up with the uniform and a bit more, and it's something to look forward to. But it sort of. It makes you wonder how we actually, it gives me hope for the current situation with Star Trek, where there's people like Gregor, for example, who really don't like Discovery, because there'll have been the same people back when TNG was airing that would have been watching the same thing and thinking, no. So when things get better, hopefully it does. And I don't know, Gregor's not watched any of the season 3, so pointless asking him. So I'll directly this question at you, Chris. I genuinely think that season 3 of Discovery definitely started to get better towards the end. It's just a bit of a shame. It should have been, from the beginning. It had some good episodes and whatnot from the beginning of season 3, but the last couple of episodes of season 3, I think, were good, because twice I've watched that, and twice I have got to the end of the episode and gone, oh, come on. It's like that cliffhanger, sort of that end. I want to see how this ends. I mean, you can't leave that there. And that's something that's been lacking from Discovery for a little while. I don't know what you think of the recent episodes and whatnot, whether you agree with that sentiment or not.
For starters, I want to say Discovery having 13 episodes and these half seasons is a very big detriment to its overall storytelling capabilities. Mm-hmm. This is something I've discussed with others, actually mostly my younger brother and I talk about Trek all the time. He's one of those who's just like, he'll admit he isn't the biggest fan of Discovery. That's his own personal preference. Whereas I'm one of those guys who's like, wait and see. But one thing I noticed when I've just been analyzing it on my own has been that Discovery is lacking very much in the storytelling potential by having only 13 episodes per season. So at this, it's season 3, but at this point we've only got, let me do the math here, 39 episodes. Whereas that'd be a season and a half of a standard, Voyager or ENT or everything else. So you don't see as much character development as much as you'd like. Mm-hmm. And you only have one arc that kind of, goes across. And even like with the superhero TV shows I watch, 13 episodes wouldn't feel enough. It would feel like short, you need to have that entire 22 to 24 episodes to kind of fully understand the characters, give everybody a chance to breathe. And it feels very much rushed in the storytelling of trying to get character building, trying to get through this arc without, giving us too many filler episodes. But also, you don't feel enough of the crew. One of my criticisms for previous seasons, and one thing I'm happy they brought up this season, and maybe one of the writers was reading my tweets, but I wanted to see more of the bridge crew. I'm great to see that with Detmer and with Owu. And I just wish they wouldn't do it right before they killed off a character. Spoilers for season 2 with Arian, but it was like the only time you got attached to a character that would kill them off. And I thought it's like, no, you need to care more about the character more than, if you'd set them up like they did with Eddington a few times before you revealed him as the bad guy, like they did in DS9. Okay, you start to know the guy, you start to trust him. Okay, you detach. His betrayal becomes that much worse because you see who he was beforehand. Whereas this one, it was the whole, you didn't know anything about Arian besides the fact that she was, an augmented human. Half the people thought she was an android. And so you didn't find out any more depth to her. But then by the end of the episode, she's gone. And so while the crew could have all this entire emotional connection to him, the audience doesn't. Like they did a sacrifice at the end of Nemesis. Had 22-year-old guys crying in the theater, and because you had all these years to build up to him. Yeah, exactly. And he's like, no, I'm not crying. I'm just, but you had that build up for it, and you had that feeling towards it, and just felt like too much of a cheat. And so I think you do have some better storylines. You go into the 30th century, I guess, 1,000 years in the future has been great for potential. I just don't feel like they're fleshing it out enough. We do not have enough time to explore this strange new world, if I can use the term. We don't have enough time to explore different characters' reactions to it. Like, I barely know anything about Bryce. I barely know anything about the other bridge officers, who they don't need to have their own bridge episodes, but it's like you see them in the background. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get to know who this crew is that we're supposed to care about so much. You don't, they're so fully focused on the 3 main leads, Stamets, Tilly, and Burnham, that they're great. I love those guys, really, I do. And the actors are absolutely fantastic. It's funny. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to care about the greater part of the crew, and you just don't. And so when you see these stakes happen, you could have you could have Bryce, and I'm forgetting his name. I wrote him in the story. Bryce and Reese die off, and honestly, I'm afraid people wouldn't care because you don't know enough to care about those guys. Or whenever you see like a Detmer-centered episode, you start to have that fear of like, oh my God, is she going to die at the end of this episode? Because that's what happened with Arya. But no, I absolutely love the episodes where they got a chance to kind of go, okay, what has this trauma done to people? And you have Detmer's fight with Stamets. You had Detmer kind of regaining her confidence in her flying abilities. But it's like, I want to see more of those as opposed to always focus on this one storyline and not getting to see any other characters do anything else.
One of the things that's funny you should mention the sort of when you get used to a character and then they get killed off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the time of recording this episode, we're at the penultimate episode of season 3.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for those that haven't watched it, but I don't care because if you haven't watched it by the time this episode airs, what have you been doing with your life? But the thing that I love the character. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It's like that favourite tea cozy. You don't know why you like it, but you do. I really started to like Rin's character.
Yes.
And I was just starting to get into the, this guy's a little bit sort of, he's like, what is he? Is he a submit, and all that sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of relatable. I'm liking this. The whole episode with Booker's shit, Grudge the Cat, and that whole...
When he's with Detmer and when Bryce jumps on his lap, he's like, "What the heck is this?"
That is pure gold. And then this episode, I thought, he's really getting into the groove. He's going to find his place on Discovery. He's going to become, and then poof, what the?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
if this had happened like next season or 2 seasons from now, we'd be crushed.
I mean,
it's because they don't have the balls to kill off one of their main characters.
Not even that. I think their storytelling, and if one of the writers sees this, maybe we can have a chat. But I think it's the fact that they're trying to build, they're trying to create dramatic tension. It's a story thing. They're trying to do the Joss Whedon thing where you kill off a character to create a amount of shock, or you kill a red shirt to create tension. But it's like, if you don't care enough about the character, I'm sorry, I didn't get enough to know. I didn't feel connected enough to Rin to really feel the devastation Twitter has been feeling about him. And it's like, and I was just starting to get to know Noah as an actor and his work. I was looking forward to seeing more of it. I'm more annoyed than I am.
I've not seen it. I've not seen it, but it sounds like this is exactly what they done with Ariam, where she was nothing but there for exposition to say 1 or 2 lines for an episode, and then she got an episode and they killed her. And it's like, this is the thing with the drama that they try to introduce, is that everything feels so unearned. Right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to have an episode of high drama, children, pointing at you. We're going to have an episode of high drama, and you will feel this way because we will do this. And it's like, but you're not earning it. This is the thing with the writing. I mean, let's talk about how it's progressed the part of women in the writing, how brilliant the part for women is. When Burnham says things to Tilly like Kate is eternal, when Tilly is holding the tub of ice cream in season 2, waiting on the 15-year-old female leader of her people to arrive. What's that? Ice cream.
I think that was just writing. It was just a great writing of just showing character moments, because it's the little, honestly, Burnham and Tilly's conversation about Kate is eternal would be like my brother and I going through, talking about cigars after going through hell. It'd just be like, it's that little comfort thing that you need, just because all this, I can curse, all this crap has hit the fan, and you're sitting there like, yeah, but at least we got this one little comfort thing that's like, all right, cool. It's the one thing that can bring you back to normalcy. It's the one little thing too. It's not a feminism thing. It's a comfort thing, because they're literally in a room detailing all who died, all who they lost in that last battle against Control, and it's just them just trying to regain some sense of.
Can we talk about great science fiction?
Gregor.
A great science fiction, so set in space, that has a diverse cast, that tells great stories. It does a show don't tell.
You're going to say Expanse.
The Expanse. Season 5. Oh my Gee.
Honestly,
Apples to oranges, mate.
I don't mean to sort of speak about another sci-fi show on a Star Trek podcast, but yes, Gregor is completely right. I'm watching The Expanse myself. I've been a fan from day one. It does take a bit to get. If you've not watched it, go and watch it. It does take. You have to stick with it because it's a bit slow in season one. It starts to get a bit.
Give it 5 episodes is what I found out this summer. I started watching this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I lost track after 2 episodes. My brother made me watch 5. Once you get in the storyline, you'll do better.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you are right because not to spoil it too much, but season 5 there is you get to understand every element of what's going off. But what The Expanse does really well is it gives you snippets of each character arc, each story arc. There's about 4 or 5 different story arcs all going on at the same time, but they do it in such a way where it's all intertwined, it's all interconnected, but they're separate in their own rights. But yet you don't feel overwhelmed by it. You don't feel like it's been rushed. You don't feel like it's been, and like Gregor says, the show and not tell. It's brilliant.
It's the allegory of the basic premise of the show that Star Trek, in either its Discovery form or Picard form, simply doesn't do. They proclaim that they're doing allegory by saying that the Romulans, the Romulans, they're Syrians, or the new Klingons in season 1 of Discovery, that's Trump and his supporters. And they signpost it, they absolutely signpost it. The allegory in The Expanse is you've got Earth, which is basically represents the Western world and its capitalism. You've got Mars, which is a very highly militarized society and represents the old Eastern Bloc of countries. And you've got the asteroid, the Belters, who are supplying both Earth and Mars with all their minerals. And that's an allegory for the third world, of which neither the old Eastern Bloc or capitalism could have survived without basically draining the third world of all its resources. And the point is, the Expanse doesn't have press releases telling you that. It shows don't tell. You have to work that out for yourself.
And the thing is for me as well is the humanity of it. I mean, sure, I can never say. I mean, I apologise. I love her to bits, but I can never say her name properly, so I don't attempt it. But the actress who plays Avasarala, brilliant human being.
Shoraya Obadishku.
Yeah, that's why I.
It's
exactly why I did not attempt it.
I'm a fan because she likes my tweets whenever I mention her, so it's like and she played. Anyway, keep going. I will go on about her later on.
And actually, to be honest with you, there is actually a way of tying Shrera onto our podcast because she did actually. She appeared in the
Beyond.
Star Trek Beyond.
She was Commodore Paris on the Yorkton.
Any relation to
quite a bit. Anyway, possibly it could be. Paris. It could be a common name. I'm just happy she was there. She was again.
But you see, the thing is, right? A comparison between. I mean, you look at The Expanse, right? I mean, honestly, Avasarala drops F-bombs like sweeties.
She does it with poetry, though.
Oh, exactly. And the thing is, for me, is I have no problem with F-bombs in Star Trek. At the end of the day, I think it's a human. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good thing, foul language, because some people really don't like it. That's fair enough. That's your right to not like it. But I think it adds the human element to a character only when it's used in context. So, for example, in Picard, the frustration on the Admiral's situation when Picard comes in and says, "Oh, by the way, can I have some ships and some men?" And she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I mean, in that scenario,
Yeah.
In that scenario, it works because if
Yeah.
somebody came in and just went, oh, by the way, I abandoned you and I left you, and by the way, I'm coming back and I want something, you'd tell them to fuck off.
Do me all these favors. You're like, it's like your ex who just left you devastated and completely homeless, and then going, yeah, so I need to borrow your car, your house, and like 5 of your friends to help me move. And it's going, the hell have you done the last 15 years?
I mean, I tell you what, I think, to be honest with you, I mean, there's probably a few, but we definitely have to set aside some time and talk about The Expanse, because it deserves its own sort of conversation in its own right. So we'll bring this back. So, to be honest with you, Janeway would probably be a similar attitude to the Prime Minister of New Zealand in the way that they dealt with the situation and just went boom.
Wasn't
done.
macrocosm similar to this, like a disease related? There's got to be a disease related episode.
Yes.
Of
yes,
Voyager.
I think
macrocosm. I studied science.
But yeah, that's a definite episode. Yeah.
But where she would have done containment protocols. The doctor and Paris, because he's basically the closest thing they have to a medical assistant, would have sat down, and Seven would have been sitting down trying to figure out the cure for this. It would have been similar to what Bashir did with the Blight in DS9, where he sat down and just quarantined the planet and tried to find a cure and then administer a vaccine. Nobody would have been allowed off the ship. No one would have been allowed to do any quote unquote unnecessary travel. Sick people would have been quarantined to certain decks. They would have triaged the decks, and she would have found a way to contain it and cure it, and then move about their day. And anybody who was violating it would have been thrown into the brig or just confined to quarters.
Or at least put in the decon chamber with Hoshi and T'Pol.
No, that would have been a reward, not punishment. So he's cracking up. He's like, or with Trip and Malcolm, if you're of that persuasion. So I mean.
Or with Trip, Malcolm, Hoshi, and T'Pol. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who am I to judge? I mean.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, anyway. Before we get sidetracked into sounding really bad, but no, they would have. They would have been forced to quarantine. You could have had that Maquis member who was like, "No, how dare you? You're not my captain." Trying to break it, and she would have had to push back. Somewhere, if we want to bring the analogy back around to now, where we have people going, "No, I'm not going to wear a face mask. I'm not going to quarantine." And Janeway, would have been like, "No, you're doing this, and we're going to get Tuvok and a security team down there to do it." But again, Janeway had to deal with 147 crew members as opposed to 450 to 500. Half a billion people. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't know the population in the UK, so I'm guessing it's between 150 to 200.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think we're trying to do an exact comparison, but I mean, like I said, I definitely think, for me personally, and this, I mean, I do have some personal connections to the name anyway, but I think for me, the optimistic side of things, the hope, that we will get through this, Neelix's character, I think he is like, he does lose his enthusiasm a little bit, but he doesn't lose it completely, and he's with the captain. He plows through, and there's a bit at the end, or towards the end, when obviously throughout this year of hell they've had to basically stop rationing, stop unnecessary replicating. Everything that could be recycled and put back into the replicators and to make either weapons or repairs would be done. And one of the items in question was a gift from Chakotay to Janeway for her birthday, I believe.
Yeah, and it was a stopwatch, or not a stopwatch. It was
a pocket watch.
Yeah.
And she basically says, "No, we can't have this. You need to go and put this in the replicators." And then when the ship's virtually at the end, she finds it, and is like, "I told him to get rid of this, but he didn't." And that symbolized the hope and that it's not. There's a way out of this. There were still people that believed on the ship that they weren't going to. It wasn't going to be the end of them. They were going to survive this. And there are a lot of people in society today that are going through this whole.
Some salted nuts next to the radio. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, we could.
I was having a serious moment about hope, and there you're talking about salted peanuts.
It's like it was intentional. I mean, yeah, no, I'm sitting there like, wow, yeah, John's making a great point, and then, yeah, some salted nuts, yeah, just put them right next to it. Like, you're the guy on set who talks while they're giving, while they're giving a soliloquy, the best speech of their life, and you got some guy going in the background going, yeah, I know we're gonna go for a drink later on. Oh, you're working. I'm sorry. Am I interrupting you?
So just for
see what I've got to work with.
So Chakotay,
sorry, mate.
Chakotay gave Janeway some salted nuts at her birthday party. Is that where we are?
Yeah.
You gave some salted nuts.
I think Gregor is deliberately trying to make this as unbearable as possible for Chris so that he doesn't come back. Honestly, this is what I have to work with. Oh, the nuts have arrived.
So okay, let's take this back. So John, take two. Yep. Quiet on the set. Gregor, you're muted. Let's bring this back. Let's talk about hope, and not only about that, but what the watch symbolized too was a big part of that too.
Yes.
And I can't remember the captain's name, was the fact that it was about a ship captain who was lost in a typhoon, who was assumed dead, and he came into London Harbor, and ship was basically busted to pieces, half a sail, but he made it home, and it was meant to be an analogy of hope for Janeway to go. Chakotay was going, you will always make it home, no matter what. And that is what Janeway has shown again and again, the type of captain she is that she will always get the crew home. She will always, she believes 100% in her crew. Maybe 97% in some of the other ones, but still, her entire belief is 147 people were on this ship. 147 people are getting back home, and that has not changed no matter how hellish it gets. And then she has to unfortunately break up the band at the end of episode 1 against her own desire, but she still does it because it ensures their survival.
And it was the whole sort of leaping without knowing. I mean, she had a theory. It was theoretical that if she destroyed the Krenin ship, it would restore the timeline. There was no guarantee that it was going to work. There was no precedent that it was going to work. And I think that's a nice way to close off, is that she went and did that and pushed forward with that because it was the only thing they had to go on. It was the only thing she had to go on, and it was the only possibility that she had. Whereas in our current situation, we have the vaccine, which people are like, they don't know what's going to happen going forward. They only have clinical trials to go off of, which is more than Janeway had. She didn't have anything to go off of. She had nothing, only theory and scientific and mathematical equations and stuff like that. So in a way, we're now at that point where going forward, the vaccine's getting pushed out there. We're getting we don't know what's going to happen going forward. We can only trust in what the trials have done. So we're in this situation now exactly the same way. We're having to trust in the science, in the medical science, that it's going to work. It's going, and I personally, I genuinely believe it will. I'm not one of these people that don't believe it's, like you mentioned earlier, that some people believe it's a hoax, and that's like, I'm the same as you. I don't think it is. It's a real thing.
Well, I spoke to my doctor a few days ago about the vaccine, and I says, will I be able to play the piano once I have the vaccine? And he said, I don't see why not.
I already know this is going.
That's funny. I couldn't before.
That's an old Simpsons joke, man. Again, he's having this touching moment. You're just like, oh, I'm sorry, am I interrupting you? There's this thing on. We need to go back to muting you without you realizing it.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not the host on this occasion, so.
I want his fun, so as soon as I start to hear him peep up, I'm like, yeah, I know this joke. But no, you're exactly right. We do have to take we do have to trust our gut right now. We do have to kind of trust the information we're given. And I know that's harder considering there's so much conflicting information, but you have to go with what's like I said before, having done my own research, I know how to sort through the muddleness of what's real and what's based upon nothing. And if I get other facts that present a different point of view, yeah, I'll review them. But everything I've read about these two, but at least the two that are available in my country right now, I believe it's the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. You do have to go off of your gut, off of what science is telling you, and go, these are safe, 80 to 90%. 3 people out of thousands have had an allergic reaction to it, which happens with any vaccine. It happens with the flu vaccine. As someone who's had to take various vaccines for whatever reasons, and you have to trust the science and know that for the first 5 days you're going to feel like crap because it's your body going, what is this mRNA? Because it's mitochondrial RNA that's going in there to treat, to tell your body this is what you need to fight against. These are the tools. So it's basically your body getting the tools it needs to fight this off should it encounter it later on, which is how vaccines.
One of the things is that the long-term side effects and stuff like that, there's no long-term side effects to any vaccine because of the nature in which a vaccine works. It goes into your body and it stays in your body for a finite amount of time, just long enough, like you say, to teach your own body cells what to do. If there were any long-term side effects of it, we would have found this in the clinical trials.
Yeah, they actually had to shut down 3 of them because there were I think 4 major trials, and we could go on about how vaccine trials work, but yeah, they would have figured out any immediate effects. And there aren't any long-term side effects in most flu vaccines, depending on what strain you get, and it is solely based upon body type.
I mean,
I've got a unique blood type.
The only concern I've got with the vaccines is, and nobody knows this because it's not been around long enough, is we just don't know how effective they'll be in 12 months' time. That's the X factor in this.
And if we need to go for another dose, it's the same thing with the flu vaccine, where every September you get a jab and you go about your way. And it cost me, I think my insurance covers it now, but before I think it used to cost me $20. And it's like, I'd rather get $20 than have to worry about giving the flu to losing work due to the flu or giving it to my colleagues.
I think it's more the logistics of administering a vaccine to an entire population of a country on a 12-monthly rotational basis.
Yeah,
is the bigger concern.
Especially with one that's as I hate to say it, as fragile as at least the Moderna version is, where it has to be at negative. Negative.
Yeah, because we've got the Moderna one and we've got the AstraZeneca one now, but the AstraZeneca one it's not quite as effective, but it's a lot easier to store and transport.
Yeah.
Well,
but again, it comes down to us having to trust.
Exactly.
Trust the process. It's okay to be a bit skittish, but still in the end, you realize it's what you need to do.
And
you need to, as you're doing the analogy, you need to make that leap of faith. You need to trust your gut, trust your instinct, and just forge on ahead, because honestly, that's the only option we've got.
And I think that's
why Janeway rammed the ship. It was the only option she had left. Yep. That was her no-win scenario, and that was her resolution.
And I think we need to take a leaf out of Janeway's book on that one and sort of push forward.
Personally, I think she should have just killed Tuvix again.
Not touching that one. Touching that one. Anyway, but going back to your leap of faith thing,
we are. One day we are, and we're bringing you on for it, because I'm just going to introduce you both and just let you.
Tuvix. Mr. Tuvix, step into the transporter.
But anyway, on that note, as is always the case, the linear nature of time, which means that some of you are grateful of, because Gregor is starting to get on my wick a little bit, as he always does every week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in once again. To our regular listeners, we appreciate you coming back every week and downloading every week. It means so much to us all.
Let us know who you are and we'll give you a shout out.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Actually, that would be cool.
Yeah, let's find out. So we've mentioned Dallas. The guys that are listening to us in Dallas, give us a shout. We've got people from San Francisco. There's one person in Canada. We've got a couple of people in the UK, some of which we know. Gregor's one of them.
This is brilliant, because if they're in Dallas, we can shout out their name and we can have music in the background from Dallas, you know,
That's not cliche at all.
and then we
It's
can,
not...
but the ones from San Francisco, we could do The Streets of San Francisco starring Cal Malden and Michael Douglas. We could do that. Canada, we can have Blaine Canada from South Park. This is like, there's miles in this. There really is.
And they go.
Celine Dion. She's from Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything's gone on since Canada came along.
Okay, you can stop now. We're gonna get a copyright strike.
Yeah. Yep. We are no longer available on Apple Podcasts.
Trey Parker will sue you. Matt Stone will just be like, whatever.
At least Mozart can't sue us. He's dead.
Well, to be fair, that is actually the only saving grace to that little entry to the show is that it's old enough to be copyright free. But no, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Yeah. Now, Gregor probably doesn't know this yet because I haven't told him, but for a little while now, we have been shouting out about Patreon, but recently thought that Patreon doesn't really work for us because it's a subscription-based support system, and we don't really feel that that's right. So from now on, if you like what we do, you can buy us a drink, especially Gregor because he loves the drink, and you can do that quite simply. I don't know why he's holding the bottle up because it's a podcast, not a video anymore. We can see it, but you at home can't.
Well, now the viewers know I'm holding a bottle up and I haven't done anything except hold a bottle up.
Yeah, because I've told them.
I mean,
anyway.
I say viewers, I mean listeners.
So if you want to buy us a drink and leave us a little message, then please do go to buymeacoffee.com/SpockTheWeekPod. The details of which are on our Twitter page and will be in the show notes for this episode as well. And like I said, you can buy as many or as little as you want, and there's no obligation. No, you can do it once and never do it again. It's up to you. But the most important thing is you keep coming back to us, and whether you go to this or not is up to you. But just keep listening, please.
Can I talk about coffee since you brought it up?
No, because
I
this
had
is the end
a fantastic cup of coffee when I was out for my walk the other day. Kilimanjaro coffee in Nicholson Street. Fantastic. Brilliant coffee. Almost as good, if not better, than Wellington coffee on the corner of George Street and Hanover Street. I know there's nobody from Edinburgh listens, but just...
If either of those coffee houses happen to be listening to this podcast, we are looking for sponsorship.
That's what it sounded like. It sounded like, or Gregor simply going, "You're gonna buy me a coffee. Buy me these. This is what I like. This is like his Amazon wish list."
It's more that I would much rather support these independent local businesses than Starbucks.
Amen to that.
Fair enough.
Amen to that. And on that lovely bombshell, we'll have to end the show. I've been the Alba Android.
Just before we end the show, can I just say, because we spoke about it earlier, I'm going to watch that episode of TNG where Gates McFadden bones her grandma's dead boyfriend's ghost.
Is this going to be one of those episodes where I have to cut it off?
No, he's fine.
Not before Gates. Not before Gates bones the ghost. Don't cut it off.
Right.
Anyway,
seeing as you keep interrupting.
Thank you for tuning in. Hey, keep going. Sorry.
Gregor, would you like to close out the show then, seeing as you keep interrupting me?
No, I think you're doing a fantastic job. Why don't you do it? I think I did the last one, didn't I? I think I did. Yeah, I did.
Yes, you did. Well, if you survived this long, thank you very much. We do apologise for Gregory. He will be muzzled for the next episode. Thank you for tuning in. I've been the Alba Android. You can find me at Alba Android on Twitter. He's been a twat, as well as the Crabbit Ginger. And you can find him at Crabbit Ginger on Twitter. And our guest this evening has been Christopher, and you can find him at The Great Merman. Is it The Great Merman, or is it just Great Merman?
It's The Great Merman. Yeah.
The Great Merman. Yeah. So we're all open on Twitter. Come and follow us. Come and say hi. And that's us for this week. Live long and prosper.
guys.
Do you want me to stop recording now?
Yeah, that would be a good idea.